AI just helped push US layoffs to the highest level in 20 years, but the people getting hit aren't who you'd think. We were told that AI automation would take out entry-level jobs first, but instead the opposite is happening. Office workers, management, analysts, white-collar jobs are being wiped out right and left, meaning many of the workers who are getting laid off are six-figure earners, prime borrowers with massive mortgages and huge monthly bills that they now can't afford. See, subprime has been flashing red for a while. Delinquencies are surging, household debt is at a record high, but now stress isn't staying at the bottom. It's climbing the ladder, and what could be some of the earliest signs of a credit crisis, one that will impact not only you, but the core of the US economy. In case you missed it this week, Klarna, the world's largest buy now, pay later lender, issued a stark warning about the rise of AI-related layoffs, specifically for prime borrowers. Prime borrowers being those who are perceived to have little to no risk when lending. They point to the fact that specifically prime borrowers are using more tools like buy now, pay later, the opposite of what you'd expect to happen in times of economic uncertainty. This creates serious risk for an economy that is built on consumer spending, specifically prime or wealthy consumer spending, which is currently propping up the entire US economy. Let me explain. Over 1 million jobs have been cut this year, the largest number since 2020, with no signs of slowing. In fact, many are saying that this is only going to speed up. October alone saw 150,000 layoffs, almost double that of the month prior. But while many of us aren't shocked by increased layoffs, companies struggling, or AI replacing jobs, what has been shocking are the types of jobs we're losing. Contrary to popular belief that it's all entry level that's being wiped out, it has primarily affected middle management, office workers, consultants, finance, accounting, all of these white-collar jobs where typically the people are qualified and in most cases experienced and thought that their jobs were relatively safe. But it doesn't end there. As Amazon, Target, Microsoft, all of these companies continue their waves of layoffs, well, many of these employees are finding that their jobs are altogether disappearing. They are unable to find new employment, which is a trend we expect to continue. In fact, if you look at the headline unemployment rate today, it is 4.4%. That's the official number we often hear. But if you look at the true rate of unemployment, or when you consider how many Americans are working a part-time job because they can't find a full-time job, Americans who are working multiple part-time jobs, or those who cannot make a living with the job that they are working, well, then the true rate of unemployment jumps up to nearly 25%. That's right, 1 in 4 Americans today are functionally unemployed, which makes sense when you see the massive cracks forming in the credit market. In fact, today, household debt in the U.S. has hit a record $18.6 trillion. As more households are forced to finance their everyday living, credit cards are completely maxed out, with delinquencies hitting nearly 7% or great financial crisis levels. Subprime auto is collapsing, with the number of borrowers 60 days or more behind sitting at 6.65% in October, a record high. But not only that, repossessions are now expected to reach 3 million vehicles by year end. All of this paints the picture of an American consumer who is drowning, who is treading water just to stay afloat but can barely get by. And it begs the question so many of us ask, how is it possible that so many American households are suffering so badly, yet at the same time we have this narrative, this picture being painted for us that the economy is seemingly strong? How could that be? Well, let me explain. Consumer spending in the United States accounts for nearly 70% of our GDP. So as you spend, it keeps the economy running. But over the last few years, something fundamental about that 70% has changed. Wealthy consumers, or the top 10% of income earners, now account for nearly half of that consumer spending that is propping up the U.S. economy, which answers the question when you wonder, how is it possible that so many households are cutting back, yet our economy is still running, the spend is still going. That is the key. We are relying more and more on a smaller section of our population, whereas historically, consumer spending was built up by the masses. Not even taking into account the rich getting richer concerns, this is dicey for the United States. It means that our entire economy, 70% of the GDP, is now based on a concentrated group of people. We have to have them keep spending. So if cracks start to form higher up the ladder, guess what that means for all the rest of us? We can expect tighter credit lending, more layoffs, more bankruptcies, which are already at the highest level since 2010. We can expect this to negatively impact the housing market, the stock market. This is bad news for everyone. So when the Klarna CEO comes out and says that they are concerned and they are keeping an eyeball on these prime borrowers who are suddenly needing to finance more of their life because of AI-related layoffs, well, we are now seeing cracks at a higher level up the ladder. This is not only going to impact their individual lives, but it impacts the entire U.S. economy, something we are seeing as more of these jobs are getting wiped out by the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. But all of this also assumes that nothing is going to change. We know that this is only going to get worse, not only because we can assume that we will lose more jobs to AI, but also because the stock market itself is highly concentrated and overvalued, which is going to create more volatility as things continue to progress. We also have geopolitical risk. We have nations moving away from the dollar at a time when the Federal Reserve is not mincing words. They are coming straight out and telling us we are ending quantitative tightening, meaning that they are warming up the printing press. They are getting ready for more stimulus. And of course they are, because what tool do they have? It's the only tool they have in times of crisis. As layoffs continue to accelerate, as times get tougher for the American people, they are going to try to print their way out of it, but do not be fooled. Maybe it will feel good for a minute. Maybe we'll get stimulus checks. I don't know. But the end result is that you cannot create more units of an existing currency without devaluing the existing ones, meaning we can absolutely expect to see more inflation at a faster pace, devaluing your checking, your savings, your retirement, your annuities, your pensions, everything that you are counting on to live on. They are coming for it, right? And it is sneaky because it's not an outright tax. It is a hidden, insidious tax that they do by creating more dollars that devalue the ones you already have, which is why I am constantly on here talking about making sure you're protected outside of this system. We know the entire thing is a house of cards, and we are just waiting for the bottom to be pulled out. It is a fragile, fragile foundation. And we here at ITM Trading, we study currency resets throughout time. If you have not already downloaded your free Built to Endure report, do so right now. You can scan the QR code to do it. It has over 100 years of currency reset information in there. How stocks, bonds, real estate, currency, and of course, gold perform during times of currency resets, something that we are living in right now. And as it continues to accelerate, it has never been more important to make sure you're protected outside of their system with physical gold and silver. Now, if you do not already have a strategy in place that includes physical gold and silver, call us at the number below, click the link in the description and set up a time to talk to one of our expert analysts. We here at ITM Trading, we are a full service gold and silver dealer, but we don't only sell gold and silver. We work with you one-on-one to make sure you have a custom strategy, because it all comes down to functionality, what you're preparing for, what your goals are, what your concerns are. Everyone is different, and we are here to help the same way we have helped so many other people over the last 30 years. So if you do not already have a strategy, or you have one and you want a second opinion, call us. Again, at the number below, scan the QR code and set up a time to talk to one of our expert analysts, whatever is easier for you. I just want to make sure that you're protected so that you also can have the peace of mind knowing that your wealth isn't caught up inside of this system, right? Because we can all see what is coming next, and it's not going to be pretty for those who aren't prepared. And in the meantime, thank you so much for being here. I'm Taylor Kenny with ITM Trading, your trusted source for all things gold, silver, and lifelong wealth protection. Until next time.